I ever had that moment when your phone's about to die, and you're nowhere near a charger. Wouldn't it be amazing if it could, like, just power itself forever?
It'd be a game changer, that's for sure.
Totally. Well, that's the kind of dream that that kind of fuels this whole idea of free energy.
Right.
And today we are diving into one of the most controversial claims out there.
Yeah.
The Searl Effect Generator.
It's SEG.
The SEG, exactly.
Been around for decades, that one.
Oh, yeah. It's captured a lot of imaginations.
Oh, it has.
With the promise of limitless power.
Limitless.
Even anti-gravity.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It is.
Yeah.
And the inventor behind it all, John Searle, claimed to have built these things. Even tells stories of them, like flying off into the sky.
We'll get to those.
Oh, we'll get to those wild tales, don't worry.
A while.
But before we get there, let's break down what the SEG supposedly is.
Okay.
And more importantly, why it kind of sets off all these alarm bells in the world of physics.
Right. Well, at its core, the SEG is really just a design of rotating magnets.
Okay.
Picture a ring magnet, and you've got smaller magnetic rollers circling around it, almost like a magnetic bearing.
Okay.
But on a super sized scale.
Wow.
Searle claimed that this setup, this very simple setup,
Right.
would create a self-sustaining loop, generating energy out of thin air, essentially.
Out of thin air?
And even producing an anti-gravity effect.
So it's like a magnetic merry-go-round.
Kind of, yeah.
Just keeps spinning, somehow creates more energy than it uses.
That was the claim.
I mean, the idea of my phone charging itself, cool.
Straight.
But this sounds a bit too good to be true, doesn't it?
It does. And that's where the fundamental laws of physics really come in SEGs. SEGs claims clash, directly with something called the law of conservation of energy.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one.
You've probably heard it. Energy can't be created or destroyed,
right.
Only transformed. So, your phone battery, for instance, converting chemical energy into electrical energy.
Right.
It's not magically creating energy from nothing.
Even those little, like, hand crank chargers,
you
use an emergency. You're putting in effort.
You are.
To get that energy out.
Exactly.
So how does the SEGI supposedly bypass this fundamental law?
That's the problem. It doesn't explain how Searle never provided a clear mechanism for how this supposed energy creation would work.
Okay.
It's just stated as a given, which immediately raises skepticism.
And raises flags.
Raises huge flags.
Yeah.
And it's not just the energy creation claim that's problematic.
Yeah.
The anti-gravity aspect is even more mind-boggling.
Yeah, that was wild.
It is.
The idea of a machine just lifting off the ground defies like everything we know about gravity.
It does. Think about those futuristic spaceships you mentioned. Even in science fiction, usually there's some explanation for how they overcome gravity, like some kind of reactionless drive pushing against space-time itself.
Right.
Searle's explanation for the SEGI's anti-gravity effect, never that detailed or convincing.
So we're already seeing some major red flags with the SEGI's claims.
Yeah.
But let's not forget the human element here, right? Yeah. Searle and his supporters often frame this invention as like suppressed technology.
Oh, yeah.
Claiming governments, big energy companies are hiding it. And maintain control.
Classic.
It is, yeah.
That's a common theme you see with a lot of these so-called free energy inventions. Taps into this idea that there's this like secret world of knowledge being kept from the public.
Right.
But gotta remember, extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence. And when it comes to the SEG, that evidence is just not there.
Okay, so we have a machine that claims to break the fundamental laws of physics.
Yep.
It's supposedly being covered up by powerful forces. But let's step back for a moment. Look at the bigger picture here.
Okay.
The SEG isn't the first attempt at creating something called a perpetual motion machine, is it?
Not at all. The quest for perpetual motion, it's a long one.
Yeah.
Fascinating one. Goes back centuries.
Right.
People have always been kind of captivated by this idea of a machine that could run forever
without
needing any external power source.
Think about like those elaborate medieval clock designs.
Oh, yeah.
Some of which were intended to run indefinitely using weights and gears.
Yeah.
So it's like that classic image of a water wheel constantly turning, generating power.
Right.
Without ever needing to be, refilled.
Yep.
It's an appealing thought, but I guess reality doesn't quite work that way.
You got it. And that's because of something called entropy.
Entropy. Okay.
You can think of entropy as a measure of disorder or randomness in a system. And the second law of thermodynamics states that entropy always increases in a closed system.
Okay, so what does that have to do with perpetual motion?
Well, even in the most perfectly designed machine, there will always be some friction, some heat loss, some energy dissipation.
Right.
Think about your phone again. It gets warm when you use it. Right.
It does.
Because some of that electrical energy is being lost as heat.
Right.
That's entropy at work.
So it's like even if you had a perfectly frictionless wheel spinning in a vacuum, it would still eventually slow down and stop because energy is always being lost somehow.
Precisely. Entropy is this fundamental force that prevents us from creating a truly closed system where energy is perfectly conserved.
Okay.
And that's why every attempt at creating a perpetual motion machine has ultimately failed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a long history of failed perpetual motion machines.
We do.
The SEGI seems to be facing those same fundamental limitations.
Seems to be.
But hasn't anyone actually tried to build and test this thing?
Well,
after all, John Searle himself claimed to have built working models, right?
He did, and that's where the story takes a turn towards the truly bizarre.
Okay, I'm all ears. What happened to these supposed working models?
Searle's explanations ranged from the dramatic to the unbelievable. Some prototypes were supposedly confiscated in government raids or stolen by mysterious forces.
Oh, come on.
While others, he claimed, actually flew off into space.
Wait. Flying off into space?
During testing. Never to be seen again.
Like defying gravity, disappearing into the vastness of the universe.
Those are the kinds of stories he told.
It sounds like a movie.
It does.
A sci-fi movie.
And while they certainly add to the mystery surrounding this egg, they do little to convince anyone in the scientific community.
Yeah.
I mean, if a machine could truly defy gravity and fly off into space, wouldn't that be the biggest scientific discovery in human history?
Right.
Wouldn't we have more evidence than just the inventor's word?
Yeah, those explanations sound a bit too convenient, I think.
A bit.
Even for a story about free energy and anti-gravity.
Yeah.
But beyond Searle's claims, has anyone else, a reputable scientist or engineer, ever built a working model of the SEG?
That's the key question. And the answer, to the best of our knowledge, is no.
Wow.
Despite Searle's claims and the intrigue surrounding the SEG, there has never been an independently verified working model of the device that produces free energy or demonstrates any anti-gravity effects.
So no respected scientific institution has ever witnessed the SEG doing what it's supposed to do in a controlled environment.
Not that we're aware of. There have been hobbyists, independent researchers who've attempted to replicate Searle's designs, but none have succeeded in producing the claimed results.
So we have these incredible claims.
We do.
But no real proof to back them up.
Yeah.
It all sounds very intriguing, but scientifically speaking, why wouldn't the SEGI work as claimed?
Well, let's get into the details of why the SEGI's claims are so problematic from a physics standpoint. The SEGI's claims, as we've touched on, really push against several foundational principles of physics. Let's take, for example, Newton's third law of motion.
Okay.
It states that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Oh, yeah, like when you jump on a trampoline.
Exactly.
You're pushing down, and the trampoline's pushing back up with an equal force, sending you flying.
Exactly. Now apply that to the SEG's anti-gravity claim. If this device could really lift off the ground, it would need to be pushing against something to create that upward force. But Searle never explained where this counterforce would come from.
So it's like trying to clap with one hand.
Yeah, you need that opposing force to create the sound, the effect.
Right. You need that other hand to clap with, to direct it.
Right. It's a concept that even science fiction writers grapple with. They often use this idea of a reactionless drive to explain how spaceships could achieve anti-gravity, essentially pushing against the fabric of space-time itself. But that's theoretical physics.
Right.
At its most speculative edge, not something the SEG accounts for.
And to be fair, physics is always evolving, right? There may be forces or principles we haven't discovered yet.
Oh, absolutely.
That could explain how something like the SEG might work.
Science is all about pushing boundaries, challenging assumptions. But even revolutionary breakthroughs need to be grounded in evidence and rigorous testing.
Right.
That's the beauty of the scientific method. Ideas are put through the ringer, they're scrutinized, they're replicated before they're accepted as fact, and the SEG so far hasn't passed those tests.
So while it's good to be open-minded, we can't just throw out established science based on an intriguing idea alone. Speaking of intriguing ideas, the SIG isn't the only concept out there promising free energy, is it?
Oh, not at all. The desire for limitless, clean energy, it's led to a whole array of inventions and theories, some more plausible than others.
Let's explore those for a bit. What are some other examples of these free energy ideas that have popped up over the years?
Well, there's the Newman motor, for one.
Yeah.
It claimed to be an overunity electromagnetic motor, meaning it produced more energy than it consumed, generated a lot of buzz, but never actually proved to work as advertised.
Sounds a bit like a recurring theme here. Bold claims, but lacking the evidence. What else is out there?
Another big one that made headlines a while back was cold fusion.
Cold fusion.
This was the idea that nuclear fusion, the process that powers the sun, could be achieved at room temperature.
Wow, room temperature fusion. That would be game-changing.
It would. Offering a nearly limitless source of clean energy.
What happened with that?
Unfortunately, the initial experiments that seemed to suggest cold fusion was possible were later found to be flawed. It turned out to be more of a measurement error than a true breakthrough.
Oh, that's a bummer. So another case of hopes dashed against the rocks of scientific rigor. Any other examples?
We could talk about zero-point energy devices.
Zero-point energy devices. Okay, what's that all about?
That's a whole other rabbit hole. It's a mind-bending concept from quantum physics. The basic idea is that you could extract energy from the quote-unquote empty space around us, the quantum vacuum that's constantly buzzing with virtual particles popping in and out of existence.
So like pulling energy out of thin air, literally.
It does, doesn't it?
Sounds pretty sci-fi to me.
And while it's theoretically fascinating, no one has ever built a working zero-point energy device that can actually extract usable energy, you know?
Yeah.
It remains firmly in the realm of speculation.
It seems like the desire for free energy has led to some incredibly creative, albeit scientifically questionable ideas. Why do you think these concepts persist?
I think it speaks to a deep human need for solutions, for a better world, you know? Free energy, if it were real, would solve so many problems. We could eliminate our dependence on fossil fuels, reduce pollution, create a world of abundance. It's almost a utopian ideal.
On a technological fix, a magic bullet for all our energy woes.
Exactly, and it taps into our desire for simple solutions, for a way to bypass complex challenges.
Right.
But the reality is most problems, especially energy challenges, require multifaceted solutions. There's rarely a single magic bullet.
You're right. I think there's also a psychological element at play here, wouldn't you say?
Right.
These free energy ideas often tap into a sense of distrust and authority. The idea that groundbreaking technologies are being suppressed by powerful forces.
Absolutely. There's this like us versus them mentality.
Yeah.
The belief that the truth is being hidden from the masses. And while it's healthy to question authority and be critical of institutions, it's important to separate healthy skepticism from, unfounded conspiracy theories.
Yeah. So how do we strike that balance? How can we be open to new ideas without being gullible?
I think it comes down to evidence and critical thinking. Always ask for proof, for independent verification, for scientific studies that back up the claims.
Right.
Don't just take someone's word for it, no matter how passionate they are.
So don't fall for the hype. Look for substance.
Precisely. And also consider the source, you know? What are their credentials? Do they have a track record of scientific accuracy? Are they being transparent about their methods and data?
So if someone with no scientific background claims to have invented a device that defies, centuries of established physics,
right,
we want to be a bit skeptical.
A bit.
But I also want to push back a little here. Are you being a bit harsh on those who believe in these free energy ideas? They're just hoping for a better future, aren't they?
I understand that perspective, and I think it's important to acknowledge the genuine hope and desire for change that drives many of these beliefs. It's not about mocking or belittling anyone's hopes. It's about encouraging a more critical and evidence-based approach to evaluating extraordinary claims.
Because ultimately, clinging to fantastical solutions might distract us from pursuing real-world solutions. That could actually make a difference.
Exactly. There are so many brilliant people working on innovative and sustainable energy solutions right now.
Yep.
We've made incredible advancements in solar, wind, geothermal, even nuclear fusion.
Right.
These might not be as flashy or as instantly gratifying as a free energy device, but they represent real progress towards a cleaner, more sustainable future.
And those advancements deserve our attention and support. So while the Searl Effect Generator and other, free energy concepts might be captivating, we need to be careful not to let them overshadow the real progress being made in the field of sustainable energy.
I agree. It's about finding that balance between dreaming big and staying grounded in reality.
Right.
And speaking of reality, let's bring this back to the SEG.
Okay.
We have these claims that go against our current understanding of physics, a lack of verifiable evidence, and a narrative of suppression that, while intriguing, doesn't hold up under scrutiny.
So where do we go from here?
Well, before we wrap up our deep dive into the Searl Effect Generator, I have one final burning question.
Okay.
Why? Why do you think these ideas, despite lacking scientific evidence, continue to fascinate people? Why do they hold such allure?
That's a great question. And I think it goes beyond just the desire for a technological fix. Yeah. It speaks to something deeper.
It does.
Within the human psyche, a longing for something more, a desire to challenge the limitations of our world.
Right. So it's not just about the energy itself, but what it represents.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about the idea of unlimited potential, of transcending limitations, of achieving something extraordinary.
Right.
It's about the thrill of discovery, the hope that maybe, just maybe, there's something out there that could change everything.
It's almost like a modern-day alchemy, the search for the philosopher's stone of energy.
That's a great analogy. And while we need to be wary of falling into the trap of magical thinking, I think there's also something to be said for that sense of wonder.
Right.
That drive to explore the unknown.
Yeah.
So how do we reconcile that desire for exploration with the nudge for critical thinking?
I think it comes down to cultivating a mindset of informed curiosity.
Okay.
We can embrace the excitement of new ideas, of pushing boundaries, while also being rigorous in our pursuit of evidence, in demanding proof, and in subjecting those ideas to the scrutiny of the scientific method.
So it's not about shutting down our imaginations, but about channeling that creative energy in a way that's both inspiring and grounded in reality.
Precisely. And on that note, I think it's time we wrap up our deep dive into the Searl Effect Generator.
Okay.
And offer some final thoughts on the pursuit of innovation and the importance of critical thinking.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring this world of the Searl Effect Generator.
A device that promises a lot, free energy, anti-gravity. But as we've seen, those claims haven't exactly stood up to scientific scrutiny.
Right. And it's important to remember that being critical of unfounded claims doesn't mean we're trying to, stifle innovation or dismiss the pursuit of scientific breakthroughs.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Critical thinking is about being discerning.
Right.
Not dismissive. It's about evaluating ideas carefully, separating fact from fiction, questioning assumptions.
Right. So while this SIEG might not be the energy revolution some hoped for, it does serve as a reminder that there's always more to learn. Always new frontiers to explore.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe there are still undiscovered principles of physics out there, just waiting to be uncovered. Maybe someday we will find a way to tap into a source of clean, abundant energy that we can't even imagine today.
It's that sense of possibility that really drives scientific progress and inspires us to to keep searching for solutions.
And that's where the real value lies, I think. Not in chasing after those easy answers or magical solutions,
right,
but in embracing the scientific method, in rigorously testing hypotheses and building upon the knowledge that came before us.
Like standing on the shoulders of giants, right?
Exactly.
Using the accumulated wisdom of generations of scientists to push those boundaries of human understanding.
Well said. And while exploring new frontiers is crucial, it's equally important to be, good stewards of the knowledge we already have. We need to use it wisely, apply it ethically, and ensure that it benefits humanity as a whole.
That's a crucial point. Technological advancements, even those with good intentions, they can have unintended consequences.
Oh, absolutely.
We've seen this throughout history. It's our responsibility to think critically about not just what we can do, but what we should do.
I couldn't agree more. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Searl Effect Generator, let's take a moment to reflect on the broader lessons we can learn from this, intriguing, albeit scientifically flawed concept.
What are some key takeaways our listeners can walk away with today?
Well, first, the allure of simple solutions. We must be wary of falling into that trap of magical thinking.
Right. Critical thinking, evidence-based reasoning. These are the tools we need to navigate a world filled with complex challenges and extraordinary claims.
Second, the desire for a better future, for a world with clean, abundant energy, it's a worthy aspiration.
Absolutely.
But that desire shouldn't lead us to abandon scientific rigor or embrace unfounded claims.
We need to be both hopeful and discerning, to dream big while staying grounded in reality.
And finally, the quest for knowledge. For understanding the mysteries of the universe, it's a journey that never truly ends. Even in debunking a claim like the Searl Effect, we learn something valuable about the nature of science, the persistence of belief, the human desire to push those boundaries of what's possible.
So even though the SEV-G might not be the answer to our energy needs, it serves as a reminder of the importance of curiosity,
of course,
of skepticism, of the ongoing quest for knowledge.
Indeed. It's a reminder to keep asking questions, to never stop exploring, and to always, always demand evidence.
And on that note, we encourage you, our listeners, to continue researching, to form your own conclusions, and to never stop questioning the world around you. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those critical thinking caps on.